All right, Nick, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, reigning, defending back to back Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, as we are legally obligated to refer to them as. They get the bye. They don't have to worry about this playoff weekend, which I think some people think is really good. Rest your guys up. But some people bring up the opinion maybe guys get a little bit rusty. Maybe guys are slow to start after a bye. But Andy Reid and the Chiefs have done something really smart here to try and counteract that. I think this is a really brilliant strategy by the Chiefs. Before we get into that, though, I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, the Chiefs' really good strategy here to try to knock off any rust. And this is something that's really kind of unprecedented, especially this time of year. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it. On the other side, this, of course, is from over on the Kansas City Star. It says Kansas City Chiefs coach Andy Reid says he's ramped up the team's practice Friday in preparation for next week's NFL playoffs. Specifically, Reid did something that rarely happens during the regular season. He had his number one offense go up against his number one defense, ones on ones. He said these are all competitive guys, but put the ones out there against each other, they really get competitive, Reid said Friday. That's kind of a fun thing to be a part of. During the season, the Chiefs typically have their starting offense and defense practice against backup players, also known as a scout team. Says this provides a better environment for each unit to focus on its game plan and plays. I really think getting the ones together, getting those competitive juices cranking up, really get everybody fired up is going to help knock off and keep off some of that rust. Hasn't really been a problem for Kansas City in the past, but I think anything they can do to keep this team firing is a really great thing for the future. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this strategy by the Chiefs. But before we get to you, Kansas City fans, in the comment section below, we don't exactly know who you're going to play yet in this next playoff game. But I think there's some pretty good indications that it'll probably be set here within the next day or so. We'll have a good idea. So let us know, even without the opponent, what do you think the score of the game is going to be? Let us know who you think the opponent is going to be. Who do you want to see come play Kansas City in the comment section below? Let us know all your thoughts on scores, who you think the opponent should be, who you think it will be, and who do you want to play in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest news for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the one problem the Chiefs have, it's weird because it's also one of their greater strengths. I call it the inevitability factor. If you go back to the great golfer Tiger Woods, they call it the Tiger effect. Basically, the opposition, when they're competing against Tiger Woods in these golf tournaments, they would feel Tiger making a move. He'd make a big putt, get a big birdie, a big eagle, whatever, and momentum. He'd climb up the leaderboards. And then everyone would start to crumble because, like, here it is. He's going to win. We all knew it was coming. We thought we had a chance, but it's Sunday, it's winning time, and Tiger's making his move. And then everyone would crumble. Like they'd basically be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's what they would call the Tiger effect, as he would take lead and win these big tournaments. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs have that factor on their side where it seems like the rest of the National Football League feels like they're inevitable, like they're an unstoppable force. We're all watching these playoff games, right? We watched the Chargers and Texans play yesterday, and everyone's like, yeah, but like whoever wins this is probably going to lose to the Chiefs. Or if you look at these other playoff games, like, well, maybe the Ravens can beat the Chiefs, maybe, but I mean, come on, that's going to be tough to go to Kansas City, right? There's sort of an inevitability factor of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's great. That's something that's good on your side. The downside is you get complacency sometimes internal to your team if you feel like you are inevitable, right? Because you still have to go out there and compete and execute. So even though you have that factor on your side, remember, for the Tiger effect to work, Tiger needed to make the shots. He needed to make the putts. The Chiefs, for this effect to work, they need to play well and they need to compete. And obviously, taking last week off against the Denver Broncos and having the bye this first round of the playoffs, they need to get those competitive juices flowing. And so I love this one-on-one strategy here. And it's important to understand this doesn't happen, right? Ones on ones during the regular season happens maybe 0 times. It just doesn't. Teams, like the report alluded to, use mainly scout teams or look squads, as they're sometimes referred to as, where backups and practice squad guys give the look of what the opposition is going to do for that next week's matchup. You get the ones going up against that group on both sides of the football, getting ones-on-one scrimmage time for obviously injury purposes and really to just, you have limited practice hours. You want to make sure you use that time for game planning. Doesn't really happen that much. Andy Reid understands he needs to make sure this team doesn't get complacent, that they reset for the postseason. One of the times that one-on-ones can happen during the regular season, one of the rare times, is if a head coach feels his team has gotten a little complacent, feels like they need a little juice, a little reset. Sometimes you'll see this after Thanksgiving or something like that, or after a bye week to get this team ready for a playoff push. Right here, we're seeing the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Andy Reid, say, this is the time to step up and reset. We feel inevitable. The opposition feels like we're inevitable. We still got to go out and compete and win. We've got the championship pedigree. We got the guys, but we need the entire roster, the entire starters, both sides of the football, and the backups to reset their focus and prepare for the playoff push because they are staring history right in the face. They've got a great chance to do it. We could be a few weeks away from looking at an unprecedented three-peat, which would absolutely be, of course, incredible. You're looking at the annals of NFL history, really football history in general. What an incredible feat that would be. It's not lost on Andy Reid. It's not lost on the Chiefs. I love the strategy here. Reset this team, refocus the group, shake things up, do ones on ones. Love this move by Andy Reid.
Yeah, Nick. And in years past, this would have been a little bit of a different move because it seemed like in years past, the Chiefs were a little bit more lopsided towards one side of the ball. But if you look this year, the Chiefs are pretty well balanced with stars on both sides. On the O line, you've got Karlaftis, you've got Jones, obviously a superstar. But on the offensive line, that interior, it's tough. You got Thuney, you got Smith, you got Humphrey in the middle, who's playing absolutely phenomenally, really going to go up against each other. Receiving core, that used to be the ding against the Chiefs. Hey, who's Mahomes throwing the ball to? Outside of Kelsey, there's really not that many guys. And on the, the DB side of things, you've got Reid who's good, McDuffie who's been really good, a lot of good guys there. But on the receiver side, now they've got great receivers too. Hopkins, old name, but he's still got a little bit of juice left in the tank. Brown is really good. Worthy brings the speed. This, wide receiver group versus secondary group, that's a battle there too. And then, linebacker core, that's always good. A second order of effect. Get your running backs up there blocking some of these guys. It just, I think, is a really good matchup. Chiefs defense versus Chiefs offense. The Chiefs are built to beat the Chiefs. So I really think it's going to, get those juices flowing. Like you said, this is a good matchup. It's not like an overpowering defense goes up against, a hobbled Chiefs offense where they didn't have any receivers, running backs are hurt, and nobody knows what's going on. Everyone's, going to get frustrated. This is a fair matchup. I think it's going to really spurn those juices, get everything flowing. Like you said, I forgot they rest everybody the last week of the season because that's basically 2 weeks off. That can get a little bit extra rusty, knock the rust off, keep this team going. Most likely going to play the Texans, but we don't know. There could be a chance the Broncos do some incredible miracle, knock the Bills out for you, and you got to play the Broncos. So I think that this team really has set themselves up for success, doing some unprecedented things. But heck, that is why the Chiefs are who they are and they are where they are, because they're willing to do things that nobody else is doing, especially this late in the season.
I want to end on something there because you hit something I think is really important that I didn't even think about it till you brought it up. One of the challenges of going up against a scout team or a look squad or whatever the heck you want to call it is that the players you're competing against, even though they're giving you a look, they're not as good as the opposition starters, obviously, because if they were as good, they'd be starters on either your team or another team. So what does Andy Reid do? It's almost like he gave another iteration of a look squad of competition because the Chiefs are so good at every level of team, O-line, D-line, linebackers, running backs, receivers, defensive backfield, of course, tight end as well with Kelsey, quarterback, we all know Mahomes. It's almost like they're giving another different look in terms of talent as well, right? So they know they're going against a good playoff team multiple times as they work their way through the playoffs. Giving ones-on-ones action here allows them to get a look at that level of talent and then transition to a game plan prep week when it's time to get look for scheme and strategy and things like that. That's a really good move by the Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't really think about it from that perspective till you brought it up. But this is sort of again, just a really smart strategy here by Andy Reid. One of the many reasons why the Chiefs are so good.